Hello and welcome to our second program celebrating the 50th anniversary of Earth Day. My name is Katie Combs and I'm the adult programming librarian for the City of Fort Worth Public Library. We at the Fort Worth Public Library love celebrating Earth Day. We do it every year. This year we've done it a little differently and taken everything virtual, but we are still here, we're still ready to party, and we just really love celebrating the day. So our speaker today is Brittany Rosenberg, who serves as the Materials Management Planner for the City of Fort Worth Code Compliance Department. She's been working with Code for the past year and has been with City for 2 years. Brittany is a lifetime avid composter, coordinator of the Fort Worth Master Composter Program, and serves in the Tarrant County Food Policy Council's Food Recovery Working Group. We also have with us Christian Harper, who serves as a Contract Service Administrator of Solid Waste for the Code Department. Christian will be working behind the scenes and answering any questions that may come through while Brittany is speaking. So if you have any questions, feel free to either put them in the chat or put them in the Q&A box below. So I hope you all enjoy the program. I will go ahead and turn my mic over to Brittany so that she can get us started.
Thank you, Katie, for that lovely introduction, and happy continued Earth Day to everybody tuning in. And Chris, feel free anytime that there's a question to just, hey, Brittany, me, and we can kind of answer as we go. So welcome to Turning Food Waste into Food Worth. I am Brittany Rosenberg. I'm a material management planner. I am on the material management team. Basically, we're a small team that is targeted at landfill diversion. So that's anything going to the landfill that doesn't have to go into the landfill. We want to try and get it out of there. If at any point in time you have to bounce out of the Zoom, but you have some questions about anything to do with that, shoot an email to mmp@fortworthtexas.gov. That goes to my whole team, and we will absolutely get back with you. So why are we here today? Start talking about food waste. Back in 2014, the city did a landfill audit. We audited our actual Fort Worth landfill, which is just mostly for Fort Worth. More than 20% of what was going into the landfill was pure food waste. And as you can see from that chart, 35% of it was compostable. So in 2017, we finalized this very large comprehensive solid waste plan, which I will not go into. We're just going to mention briefly that we figured out that the Fort Worth landfill is filling rapidly. Our city is growing, which is awesome, but it also means that we need to build other infrastructure to keep up. Also important to note here is that in 2018, January 1st, China, which was previously the biggest purchaser of recyclables, so like when you put your recycling in your blue cart and you put it out by the street, and then it goes to the recycling facility and it gets sorted, it was baled into like types. So all the cans went together, all the plastic went together, and all of that was shipped mostly to China and other countries that bought those raw materials to then make new materials out of. So in 2018, China was like, national sword, we are not purchasing any more recyclables from the US or from most other countries anymore ever again, which shot up the cost of recycling and lowered the value of recyclables. So while that market is on a comeback and recycling is by no means broken, we had to start looking at other avenues and things that we could take out of the landfill. So food waste is the obvious next guess. Some quick facts: 30% of US food waste goes directly from farm to table to landfill. An example of that on economic impact is tomatoes. More than $2 billion spent each year in the US to put more than 6 trillion tomatoes right in the landfill. And the environmental impacts of those are ones that are really obvious that you can think of, such as we're losing those resources, we're creating excess methane, we're filling up landfills faster than we need to. It also creates extra traffic, extra packaging, all kinds of just extra waste. It's a huge problem. It's any waste is waste. It means that money is being wasted, time is being wasted, effort is being wasted. And that could all be worth something and actually contributing to our economy and our community. Oh, and an important note on that, food waste is also responsible for 25% of global freshwater use. That's also a huge environmental problem that I'm sure many of you are aware of. So to put it in a personal perspective, $370 per year is how much the average US American loses from wasting food. It may not sound like a lot, but I bet especially right now, it's something that everybody wishes they had extra. So what can we do? Number one, the EPA has created this handy dandy food recovery hierarchy, which puts it into a very logical order on what is the most preferred and least preferred way that we can handle all of this food waste. So number one, reduce. It's as easy as that. The market follows demand. If we all start prepping a little bit and buying a little bit less, that will eventually mean that we produce less excess food. The National Resources Defense Council has this really cool Save the Food Meal Prep Mate, which I will show you guys over here. So this whole website has a lot of really neat resources on it, but the Meal Prep Mate in particular is very fun. There's a bunch of recipes, fun nutritional facts, and you can sign up for all kinds of cool stuff on there. Back to the slides. Another fun fact, 21% of American waste is food. Let's feed people, not landfills. I really like throwing this picture up there because it's obvious from the presence of all of the seagulls that there is a lot of food in that trash, and food is not trash. It doesn't have to be there. Which brings us to number two of what can we do? Feed hungry people. Extra food can be donated. So there's a bit of a rumor or a myth around that you take on a large amount of liability, especially if you're a business or institution trying to donate food. The Bill Emerson Good Samaritan Act of the 1980s, I apologize, I forget the exact year, actually protects people and businesses that are donating food with good intentions and who have a reasonable assurance that this food that they're donating isn't bad and that they've, responsibly charged it in all the steps of its transition. Two really good resources for that are the Tarrant Area Food Bank, which you may be familiar with, and which is doing a stand-up job right now, especially during COVID crisis, as well as the Tarrant County Food Policy Council, which started as part of the food bank and is an entity of its own right now. And I have David Purcell's email on there, but you can also just go to tafb.org if you want more info about donating or volunteering or getting any of that set up. And you can also email that one email, mmp@fortworthtexas.gov, which will come back up. Number three on what we can do, which this is a particular favorite of mine because we have a very active urban agriculture community in Fort Worth. So we do actually feed a lot of animals and farms. Spent grains, for instance, almost every single brewery in Fort Worth, including Hop Fusion that I recently started working with, diverts 100% of their spent grains, and RAR, I will give them a shout out as well, to a local farm. And most farms use it as a feed amendment because it's got a lot of heavy probiotics, but some also use it as soil amendments for the same reason. That also applies to, excuse me, food scraps and coffee grounds. And you will see on there we have a lot of really cool partnerships that go on with this. Tarrant County Food Policy Council and the Food Bank again, but also Healthy Tarrant County Collaboration, which is a supporter of Grow Southeast, which is a very cool collective of 6 and a growing number of local urban ag projects in the southeast of Fort Worth that are taking a look at their area of the community that doesn't have access to healthy food and literally growing food in those areas to be produced and sold. Also, Blue Zones Project, they do a lot in all of these areas, and Fort Worth is a blue zone city, and we've had a lot of success and a lot of really cool stuff done here in association with Blue Zones. So absolute shout out to Blue Zones. They've also been pulling it out and get a lot of food out to people right now during the COVID crisis. So we thank them for their efforts. You can visit their website to learn more about our growing urban ag movement and how you can get involved. You can also email me, mmp@fortworthtexas.gov. I would love to hear from you and help out with whatever your project or idea is. We want to keep this environment vibrant and growing. I might come back to them because I think I had a note I've forgotten now. Community Spotlight, quick congratulations to the Culinary School of Fort Worth, winner of Keep Texas Beautiful's 2020 Outstanding Program Award that just got announced, I think, last month. As of January, they had used over 5,000 gallons of food waste donated by the Culinary School of Fort Worth in the Tarrant Area Food Bank's Learning Garden. And the Learning Garden, while it's at limited volunteer capacity right now, when things start opening back up, that is a great place to learn about growing food, composting, and food waste, and how you can get more involved in your community in Fort Worth, and about a lot of the stuff that we're going to talk about. If you are interested in learning more about volunteering for either the Food Bank Learning Garden or the Grow Southeast Farm Collective, you can hit up one of my good friends, Becca Knudsen from TAFB, and her email is at the bottom there. She's awesome and responsible for a lot of good that happens around here. This is a picture from the early days of the Learning Garden when it was just getting established, but look at that beautiful compost that they have going. Excuse me, guys. Okay, quick note on this one, industrial uses. Fort Worth has a very active industrial reuse and conversion economy. I won't go into that a whole lot, but if you are a business that is a very large factory or manufactory, like very large, and you have a lot of grease waste or protein waste or something like that, that you're looking for an avenue to get rid of that isn't going to the landfill, if you don't already have something like that set up, I would encourage you, email us, contact us, or if you even have a suggestion somewhere in that range. It's not something that I'll go into a whole lot. Do we have any questions at this point? Nope.
No questions yet.
Okay. All right. Number 5 on what can we do? Composting. So this is, we're going to kind of bring it in now and look more at what you as an individual Fort Worthian or resident can do.
Hey, Brittany, this is, sorry, a perfect time. A question did just pop up, and since composting slide is up, this is from Wesley. Are there current opportunities for composting related volunteering while we are practicing social distancing?
Yes. So that would be with the Grow Southeast Collective. So I'm going to go back and throw Becca's email back up on there. I know, for instance, Opal's Farm, which is one of the oldest Grow Southeast Collective farms. They've been active for more than a year. They absolutely could use composting or gardening help just in general. They're looking into, I think, second turning cycle right now. But if you email Becca, she'll get in touch with she will get you in touch with Gregory Joel, who is the farm manager, and he would love to have you. And I'll hold on if I can think of any more, but Grow Southeast for sure. Any more questions?
No, but we have one comment from Kathleen. She said the Fort Worth Botanic Garden is always looking for volunteers as well.
Yes, the Fort Worth Botanic Garden is always looking for volunteers, and I'm hesitant to throw them out right now because they are having to do interesting things with their volunteering as well. Montana Williams is the volunteer coordinator for there, and you can email him. If you're interested in volunteering for the Botanic Garden, though, you can go on to BRIT.org. That's BRIT.org. That is the Botanic Research Institute of Texas, and they are taking over management of the Botanic Garden. And you can find Montana Williams on there, his profile, and I'll throw his name up at the end. He's the volunteer coordinator, and he will absolutely get you signed up to help, and he will be able to tell you in what capacity they're able to have volunteers on right now. Okay, I'm going to move into composting at home if there are no more questions right now.
No more questions right now.
Okay, thank you so much, Chris. Okay, so what is compost? Organic compost looks like chocolate brown dirt, and I will do a closer up picture of this, but this is compost from my own home. It's made up of bacteria, tons and tons of many kinds of bacteria, fungi, worms, and insects, which break all of the food waste and mulch and that kind of stuff down and turn it into rich, dark, delicious soil. So I'll do a close-up of this in a second because I also have some worms I'm going to show you guys, but I want to cover a little bit of this first. So basic question, why use compost instead of fertilizer? Pretty easy answer. Compost is part of a natural renewable cycle that supports a complex ecosystem and healthier soil, which means a healthier yard, a healthier community, healthier neighborhood. Fertilizer is kind of a cheat. It feeds plants directly. It's quick production. It will boost quick production, but it can also burn plants and soil and damage a lot of the really healthy microorganisms. So there are drawbacks for sure. How to backyard compost. There are many more resources on this, and I'm going to show you a resource page next after this. So this is a very, very quick breakdown. There is basically, you mix carbon materials, which are your browns, and nitrogen materials, which are your greens, and you put them in with water, give them access to oxygen, and you turn them occasionally, and all the bacteria and little insects do their job, and they break it down into what you can see is here, beautiful compost. And all of that, this is a picture taken from the compost outpost at the Fort Worth Botanic Garden. That is a master composter, turning it right there. And these are the compost bins that they use. They're just open top wire compost bins that they put a bit of foam over the top of. And that's really just to stop wind from blowing away the leaves. Usually they start completely full. And so this one that you can see in the picture behind her has been active for quite some time, and it will condense down as it gets broken down and into smaller and smaller particles. And they churn a lot at the compost outpost, and those volunteers do a lot of really, really good work. Quick note, also indoor composting with worms. So if you don't have a backyard, but you're still interested in the science of this, or if you have children and you want to do a cool project with composting, vermiculture is a great way to do that. Some couple notes, I would say it needs to be indoors. You don't have to do them indoors, but the most common compost worm is a red wriggler, which is not native to Texas. So there's a whole bunch of temperature issues that come up with trying to have them outside, not to mention that our native earthworms they're predators, and also that they have many other predators, such as birds, that will try and get at your worms. So this is a picture of a worm bin. It is not my current worm bin. It is an old worm bin, but that's what they look like. And this is what the red wrigglers look like, but I will show you some of mine. Really quickly, the vermicompost diet is similar to what you would put in your backyard compost. If you'll notice on this list of backyard composting, it doesn't say dairy or proteins anywhere. There's a few reasons. Number one, you don't really want to put that in your backyard, especially not in Fort Worth. We don't want to encourage rodents and pests, but it also creates dangerous bacteria like E. coli that if you're not doing really active, perfect chemistry, hot composting, and you're just doing more my style of composting where it's lazy and you just kind of turn it sometimes, you can't guarantee that you're going to kill all of the bacteria that you need to. With worms, it's just dangerous for them to eat. The worms don't actually have stomach acid like the way we do. They break everything down by eating a bit of dirt, eating a bit of food waste, and then grinding it up in their stomach muscles. And so also no acids such as lemons, limes, those burn the worms, and no meat, dairy, or oil. And so while we wait for questions to come in, I will show you a close-up of this is my backyard compost. It looks very similar to the compost at the master compost because I do it the way they did it, but I've also relearned with a lot of them very recently. As you can see, very pretty brown, got some leaf bits, got some old roof bits, but mostly it's broken down dirt. And this all had a whole watermelon in it like 6 months ago, so.
Hey, Brittany, we actually have two questions. One is compost and one goes back to food waste. So
okay.
Question, why can't meat or bones, proteins, be composted in backyard piles?
That's the danger issue. They create, I hope y'all can see my worms there. That's a couple of them. And they are squiggling because they do not like the light. And also because I lured them out of their cage or their bin with a melon, which has now disappeared and was a lie. So, but those are red wrigglers and they are little troopers. They do a lot of really cool stuff. Okay, so yes, you don't want to have those in your backyard because, like I said, creates E. coli is the main risk, among other dangerous bacteria that are associated with proteins, as well as pests. And then let's go back to food waste.
Yeah, so question came in. It says, seems like even smaller businesses, grocery stores or restaurants, when they open up with a lot of food waste, would benefit from diverting it from the landfill. Are there services to collect from those types of locations? Because you mentioned larger businesses.
Yes, and I have a slide about it at the end, but we can just talk about it now. So the main, and as far as I know, only real compost collection service is Cowboy Compost. And that's Cowboy, like Fort Worth, Compost. They're really easy to find online. They're actually the hauler for the residential pilot program, which I'll also talk a bit more about here in a sec. And they do all sizes of compost collection. So if you're interested in it and you want to get your compost collected as a business, you absolutely can do that. My team, MMP, also helps set that up. We can help with container assistance sometimes, depending on the process that you have going. And we can also help with recognition and signage. We love to recognize Fort Worth businesses that are going above and beyond, because it is extra effort. Sometimes it means extra money. Sometimes it means training staff and making sure that your staff actually cares and it's something that they want to do and that they feel appreciated for doing. So definitely hit up Cowboy Compost and also us, MMP.
Hey, Brittany, isn't it true that there's a notable Fort Worth resident who started Cowboy Compost?
Oh yes, Miguel Hath-Bedoya, who is Fort Worth Symphony Orchestra's, I believe, former. I apologize, Miguel. I do not remember if this or last year was your last year as director of the Symphony Orchestra, but he was for a number of years, and then I believe during a couple of years ago, he started Cowboy Compost while the symphony was on strike, and he and a couple of other really snazzy, very cool Fort Worth residents. It's a very small operation, and it's very close to home. Miguel loves to speak on compost. He loves to speak on food waste and on the necessity of getting back those nutrients. And he has very adorable videos of he and his family collecting all of their food waste. And when they go out to a restaurant, they bring their own Tupperware to take not edible food, but also food scraps home. And so it's pretty great. Thanks, Chris, for that reminder. Okay. Are there any more questions, or I'm going to move on?
No more questions right now. We can move on.
Thank you, Chris. So these are those learning resources that I mentioned that I would throw up there. The Master Composter program, we had to take a small hiatus due to COVID, so we had to cancel our spring classes, but we will be back in the fall. We offer free 101 classes, paid hands-on master course that you take home. It's in-person instruction with a bunch of different instructors from Fort Worth in the area that are professionals and experts at this. And you get to go home with a compost bin and a handbook that was partially written by the Master Composter volunteers. And then we also have some online webinars coming up. This is which is kind of the second. The first of which was last week, actually, from the Research Institute, and one of our very esteemed Master Composters, Lance, that'll get posted on their YouTube next week, I believe. But before I continue with the learning resources, I'm going to take y'all back to the web and show you the Keep Fort Worth Beautiful page. So Keep Fort Worth Beautiful is this awesome little section of code compliance that does a heck of a lot. And as you can see, very active, lots of recognition, but also if you scroll down all the way to the bottom, you can sign up for the newsletter. You can sign up for more than one newsletter through this link, but I encourage you at least the Keep Fort Worth Beautiful one, because that is where we post all of the upcoming classes and Master Composter stuff, as well as tons of other ways that you can get involved with any of the things that I'm talking about, plus litter, recycling, graffiti abatement, all that.
Hey, Brittany, we can see you, but not the Keep Fort Worth Beautiful page.
Oh, okay, just kidding. In a moment, you will see the Keep Fort Worth Beautiful page. There we go, Keep Fort Worth Beautiful page. Okay, so there
we go.
Full program. Thanks, Chris. Lots of accolades. If you scroll down to the bottom, that is where you can sign up for that newsletter. And it's just fortworthtexas.gov/KFWB is how you find that. Okay. Thank you, Chris. Back to the slides. So that was the Master Composter program. Online resources, I definitely encourage you to check out AgriLife Extension. They have way more than just about composting, anything at all to do with agriculture. TakeCareOfTexas.org is part of the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, and they make little things like this very cool compost pile troubleshooting infographic. So they take a lot of major knowledge, reduce it down in quick little blurbs. So
hey, Brittany, can I jump in? I'm sorry,
yeah.
There may be a problem on the Zoom because we're still seeing Keep Fort Worth Beautiful. We didn't go back to the presentation yet.
Okay, let me try stopping the share and then sharing. Are we there?
You're good to go.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, guys, for bearing with us through technical difficulties. These are wondrous times. Okay, that was the AgriLife Extension that I was just talking about. TakeCareOfTexas.org. They have these little infographics. And composting, don't let me make it sound like it's complicated. It's really not. It can be as intensive or as absolutely lazy as you want it to be. I know quite a few people that do trench composting, which is, for lack of a better explanation, you literally just dig a hole, put some vegetable scraps in there, cover the hole up. And the worms and bacteria will absolutely take care of it for you. If you want to get into the science or find out more about food waste globally or as a country, definitely check out EPA.gov. And then vermicomposting. If you want to get started with worms, you're more than welcome to email me. TexasWormRanch.com. I'm throwing that up there because Heather Rinaldi, I actually took a class from her. It's very comprehensive and you get to take home a worm bin. We will eventually be doing vermicomposting classes again through the Master Composters. We just don't have any scheduled right now, so I don't want to make you wait. And then the Roddale Institute. They have comprehensive, very in-depth, very accredited explanations for any of the stuff that I've talked about, but they've got a really cool article on worms up right now. So a little bit more info about the Master Composter program because I'm going to slide into the pilot program from here. So the Master Composter program is a volunteer process, basically, where we get residents educated about backyard composting, and we encourage you to then turn around and offer outreach to your other residents, not only about composting, but about food waste sustainability in general. As you can see, it's a huge program supported by a ton of different institutions, including the Botanic Garden, the Research Institute, and GROW, their collaborative. So it started back in 2005. It had one very dedicated volunteer that started teaching a few free classes. Interest started growing, more bins started growing, more volunteers started getting involved. And then now, bam, in 2019, we have the master class. We do workshops all year. We have, we booth at tons of events, and over 2,000 volunteer outreach hours get donated every year just by the volunteers. And then in that picture, which has me in it, and also a bunch of the major volunteers. This was taken last winter. That is some equipment that got donated by one of solid waste vendors, but also in those buckets is a ton of coffee. Avoca Roasters off of Magnolia, thank you very much, Pete, donates a ton of, I think it's somewhere around 500 pounds of coffee a week for the Master Composters to use at the Botanic Garden. So it's really cool. And there's tons of little business partnerships like that that exist all over Fort Worth. And if you're a business, I would love to help you set one up. So that brings us to also last year, the launch of the residential pilot. Now the residential food scrap composting program, I'm sorry, Chris, is there a question before I continue?
Yeah, so just a note, if people need help signing up, at the end, you can let us know and we can send an instruction guide to help them walk through the sign-up process. And that was from Lola.
Thank you, Lola. Yes. So, and I'll also put the website, I think it's on the next slide, for where you can sign up. So The residential food scrap composting program, I have to put a quick shout out to the North Texas Council of Governments and the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, because they gave us the grant that funded this program, and they gave it to us on the merit and success of our Master Composter program. So one more shout out to the Master Composters, because these guys are awesome. The city of Dallas actually came and toured our program last May, I believe, because they want to start something similar in Dallas, and they want to figure out how to do municipal composting and curbside composting. And so they wanted to see what we did and how we got it done. And good luck, Dallas. Hoping to see it soon from you. But for right now, it's unique to Fort Worth in North Texas, which is very, very cool. So at a glance, to participate in the pilot, you have to be a Fort Worth resident. You pay a one-time $20 fee online, and that all of those fees are actually getting donated to keep Fort Worth beautiful. So that's really cool. Your money goes further. You pick up your starter kit from one of the 4 drop-off stations. And if you're not familiar with the Fort Worth drop-off stations, you should get familiar because they're very cool. And after that, you get this starter kit, which you can see here has a bucket, a pail, and then also all of this cool literature that tells you what can go in the bucket and pail. And then once you've collected it, you can actually drop it off at 12 different collection sites. There's only 4 places to pick up your bucket, but there's 12 places to drop off your scraps. All of those are open right now. They're all considered essential services and have regular access hours. And we just added City Hall. So thank you, Miss Betsy Price, for allowing us to do that. And those are the carts. That's what they look like when you go up and see them for your first time. At the bottom there is where you can sign up, fortworthtexas.gov/solid waste/compost. And as Lola said, there's a phone number hotline also that you can call on that website if you have any problems getting through it, as well as my coworker, Flavia Paulino, her email. So you can email her and have her help you get through it. But got to brag on our subscribers real quick. So we just hit the 1-year anniversary. Happy birthday, pilot program. We almost hit 1,000 subscribers. But with under 1,000 subscribers, we have managed to divert 43 tons of food waste. That is a lot, with 0.6% contamination. That's huge. And if any of y'all were watching my coworker's Chris presentation yesterday about recycling, or if you just happen to know, residential recycling, that's what goes in your blue cart out every week, that is 25% contaminated. So that means on average, almost every one of you, about 1/4 of what you put in there shouldn't be in there. And that we're trying to help get everybody on the right page with, and we understand that we need to help with education on that, so we are working on it. Just want to put that number in perspective though, less than 1% of contamination. You subscribers are doing an amazing job.
Hey, Brittany, we've got a couple questions coming in. Okay, so if the program is residential based, can you explain why there's a need to deliver the food scraps to collection sites?
Yes, because it is not yet big enough, and we haven't developed the budget and the infrastructure, and with only one composting company still like very active in Fort Worth, which is Cowboy Compost, who is the hauler for the pilot program again. There's really not the infrastructure or the funding to possibly have it at curbside. That is the eventual goal. That is a goal that was outlined in that solid waste plan, that giant thing that I told you about that we're not going to go very far into. But at this time, this is the best way to make sure that it is viable, that it's something that our residents want, that they can participate in, that they will participate in successfully. And y'all are doing that. Y'all are proving the value.
Okay. Another question, is the program still operating right now, even though we're sheltering in place? Yes. Again, compost services are considered just like trash services. Those are essential. And if you go to any of the collection sites or the drop-off stations, all of those are operating with safe social distancing practices, and there's extra advice on the sign-up page on the website for how to make sure that you stay safe while you're diverting your compost. Okay, this is from Christine. Is there a place to purchase the compost that's made from this program? No, not in this version of it, and I don't know if we will include it in another version of it, but if you want to, well, okay, so technically, yes, you cannot purchase it from the city, but I will to myself. Silver Creek Materials is the plant that the material is processed at.
So if you want to purchase compost from Silver Creek Materials, that is where Earth Food Waste went. And so you can get compost from them.
Okay, another question. This is about composting. Someone asked, can you put the food scraps into your residential yard bags to be collected at the curb with your grass clippings and twigs?
Please no, don't do that. Don't do that, because we have a really cool mulching program that happens with the yard waste bags. The yard waste bags get taken to, I believe, also Silver Creek Materials. And if I'm wrong, Chris, please correct me.
No, those go to Living Earth at the Southeast landfill.
Living Earth. So they go to the landfill in the Living Earth section of the landfill. Okay. And those get mulched into mulch and then brought back to the drop-off stations. And if you're a Fort Worth resident, you can take home free mulch anytime that you like by just going to one of the drop-off stations, and you got to load it up yourself. I have seen Fort Worth residents be creative and load it up directly into the back trunk of a sedan. So more power to you. But please, if you put food waste in that, it contaminates it. And that means basically that whole chunk has to get thrown away into the landfill because it can't get safely mulched in with everything else, because we don't want bacteria in the mulch.
Yes, thank you. The mulch program is very important to the diversion program of keeping things out of the landfill. So thanks you, Brittany. We've got a couple more questions here. So what about resources for schools and assistance with school compost projects?
Yes.
And do they participate in food recycling?
So not, most schools don't, and I should have made a slide for them. North Highmount Elementary recently started, last year, they started doing a food composting pilot program, and our team helped out with that. Cowboy Compost did a ton of on-site education with them, and the Food Policy Council's Food Recovery Working Group, of which I am a part, also did a huge bit of that. Oh, and a ton of TCU volunteers as well. Thank you, Dr. Gina Hill of TCU Nutritional Science, for a lot of efforts put toward that. Composting at schools is great because it's very educational. It gets you started young, thinking about the idea of separating stuff out and what stuff is waste. Is this stuff really trash? I absolutely avidly support it, and I would ask you to please contact us at MMP. I'm gonna see where I can throw that email back up there on one of these slides at some point. Okay, bottom left here, mmp@fortworthtexas.gov. Email us, absolutely. If you are a school, you can also, and you're wanting to start a composting program, you can also go on to the Keep Fort Worth Beautiful page, which is hopefully what is up and being shared currently.
Yep.
And you can check out the School Green Teams page. So that's fortworthtexas.gov/KFWB, short for Keep Fort Worth Beautiful. And then you click the School Green Teams. And while the Green Teams program is a little bit awkward right now because of the school situation, we will be going all the way back up and ramping it all the way back up for the 2020 school year. And there's a lot of different programs that you can participate in, but you can totally request composting classes and get stuff scheduled. So it takes you to the Compost Outpost, where you can shoot us an email and ask us about it. But you can also just email Keep Fort Worth Beautiful if you're a school and you're wanting to do anything about sustainability. We will help you out. Green Teams is a really cool program. I'm pretty sure this year we added more green teams than any other year previously in Chunk. And we also started the Green Team of the Year contest, which again, we're going to have to figure out how to roll out, but we will be doing it again next year, and it is a very cool program. So thank you. Excellent question. Any more?
Yeah, actually, Eric from Cowboy Compost is on the webinar, and he said you can purchase the compost created with the pilot program food scraps from cowboycompost.com, which is awesome. So you can go full circle and put your food waste in there and bring it right back to your yard.
Thank you, Eric. I'm very sorry that I did not know that off the top of my head. So there you go. You can go to cowboycompost.com. You can keep it local and with the hauler and grab a compost that created from this pilot program right there. Excellent.
And then one more question came in for collections. And then one more question came in for collections. Brittany, it says, do we know if Organics or Silver Creek or Living Earth provide limited collection services?
Organics is providing limited collection services. I cannot tell you the details of it. It's, as far as I know, they're working with very massive producers in a very limited capacity in Fort Worth. As far as I know, Silver Creek, it's the same thing. It's going to be more business to business and very large very large industrial level producer. And so if you're interested in getting involved in any of that industrial level, again, I encourage you hit up my team, mmp@fortworthtexas.gov, and we will absolutely get you in touch with the right people and assist in whatever way we can.
Okay, I think that's all the questions right now.
Okay, I wanted to display these beautiful yard signs that are also available if you sign up for the pilot program.
Hey, Brittany, we're still on keepfortworthbeautiful.com. I think the Zoom screen is a little bit behind.
Okay. Thank you very much, Chris. Are we back on the pilot?
You are back on the pilot.
Thank you very much. My IT support, ladies and gentlemen, is impeccable. Okay, so I wanted to show off these yard signs that are also available for free if you join the pilot. They're very cool. They make you look like the coolest kid in your neighborhood, and you should absolutely get one. They're not available at the drop-off stations, but if you want one and you joined the pilot, just shoot us an email and we'll figure out how to get you one. And once we are able to, we are totally planning on having a subscriber appreciation day. There will be free popcorn, yard signs, buttons, and probably some pictures and videos taken. So I hope that we will eventually get to see all of you there. And my PowerPoint has frozen. No, it has not. Okay, so quick wrap up, take it back to the overall message, which is that 1/3 of all food in the United States, and that's very well represented in Texas and Fort Worth, goes uneaten each year. More than 20% of what is in the Fort Worth landfill is pure food waste. That is waste, and it doesn't need to happen. It's wasted life, wasted job, wasted resources, and there's a lot of better things that we could be doing with it. And I truly believe, especially after the last year of the pilot program and a year in this position, I've seen some beautiful things from the people of Fort Worth. So I believe in you guys. We can stick to these principles and we can reduce our food waste massively, as well as reduce what's going in the landfill. Did we have another question before I move on?
Nope, not yet.
Okay. I wanted to give 2 quick shout outs. There are a lot of very successful composting programs. And so if I've worked with you on a composting program and I forgot to mention you in this presentation, my sincere apologies. I owe you a coffee. But I wanted to highlight 2 of them because these were really, really cool partnerships and people that went above and beyond to try. The 2020 near Southside Gin Dig back in February, and to a huge shout out to the Omni Fort Worth. They diverted more than 345 food scraps just from one event, and that's literally just plate scrapings the people were done with at the end of the night. And they did that with 0% contamination. Congratulations, Omni. Thank you very much. And that was hauled by Cowboy Compost. Thanks, guys. Also done by Cowboy Compost and with some help from some city signage, as you can see. The 2020 Cowtown Marathon diverted over 500 pounds of just banana peels from their runners, the stations where you pick up your packet. And that was really great. You guys did an awesome job. They also did a great job at recycling at that event. So huge shout out. If you're interested in any kind of composting or recycling for your events, again, email my team. There's the email right there. We would love to help you out. We have all kinds of resources, training, and my teammate Michelle is actually in charge of events, but pretty much any of us can help and are more than willing and happy. So shouts out to all these logos that you see on the side here. And that's basically it that I had to talk about for food waste. I wanted to throw this up here because ultimately a lot of this is about just waste in general. And besides food waste, a huge thing that creates waste and wasted effort is the large amount of contamination that goes into Fort Worth residential recycling. So our current campaign that we have right now is Do You Know What to Throw? And we have a really cool game that Chris and his team put together at fortworthtexas.gov/solid waste. There's also a lot of resources, just period, on the solid waste page. You can download the app and find out, get reminders for your collection for your trash and residential recycling. You can totally play the game and get certified as a responsible recycler. And if you email my team back when the recycling facility is able to be open for tours again, we do public tours. They're very fun. They're totally kid friendly. We also do tours of the drop-off stations, especially the one at Hillshire, which has a animal shelter annex. So you get to see some animals, you get to see some recycling, some diversion, and sometimes the big trucks are there, which is always really fun for the kids. Do we have any more questions at this time?
Not at this time.
Okay, so I burned through my materials kind of quickly, so we will go to...
Actually, one just popped up.
Oh, cool.
It's on the residential food scrap program. So how long will the residential food scrap pilot program continue, and is there a final deadline to sign up by?
So it's been renewed for sure for another year, but I can tell you it is a useful, important program. City Council is behind it, Fort Worth is behind it. And as I said, it's in the solid waste plan for us to eventually do curbside composting, which would be you'd put out your recycle cart, your trash cart, and then however we end up managing the logistics of that, you would also put out your composting food waste bucket. So until we get there, this is how we build it. And this is how we build the value and the participation in the program. We designed the whole pilot based on a similar program in Minneapolis, actually, and that's what they did. They started out with drop-off situation, and then they transitioned into full municipal pickup. But they still have the drop-off as well. So if you prefer to drop off, you don't have to have the pickup because you can drop off whenever you want, versus the pickups are on this regular schedule. And so some people still prefer that up in Minneapolis. But so yes, I do not foresee a time in which Fort Worth will nix the program because it is too important and it's working too well. So hope that answers your question. I want to go over some other of these resources. If you're interested in joining the Tarrant County Food Policy Council, just a heads up, anybody can join it. It's for Tarrant County residents, you don't have to have any specific job or background knowledge or skills. It's just if you're interested and you care about Fort Worth food and Tarrant County food and food security and waste, they have a bunch of cool resources, and there's a fun blog, and they put together really neat events, like they do screenings of documentaries and cool movies and stuff. So that's a great one. Meal Prep Mate, just in case you missed it. They have tons of recipes and meal planners that help you cut down on food waste in your own home and hopefully lower your food budget.
Hey, Brittany, while you're scrolling through these, we got another question that came in. So from Kathleen, she said the sign has an orange on it. So please confirm that you can can you or can you not compost an orange?
Yes, you can. The only way you can't compost an orange is with worms. It will make the worms sad. But in the residential pilots, you can compost all kinds of stuff. It's actually, I'm on the page for the residential pilot, which is fortworthtexas.gov/solid-waste/compost. You can get to it from just the solid waste page, or you can literally just Google Fort Worth residential compost. So there is an acceptable items that shows you what you can put in here. So I forgot to mention this. Thank you for that question. Excellent question. You don't want to put eggs and dairy and those kinds of meat proteins in your backyard compost. You definitely can't do it with vermicomposting. But if you join the pilot and you're just dropping off your food scraps, you'll note we can accept eggs and dairy and proteins, cooked meats in particular, in the in the pilot program, which is really awesome. So even if you compost in your backyard, but you now want to also divert your proteins, I would encourage you, one-time fee of $20, and you can feel like you're an awesome resident. There's also a list of unacceptable items. Some of these are pretty obvious. You know, we don't want to be putting styrofoam in there, but some of the less obvious ones are grease or oils, frozen food packaging. A lot of people think those are compostable, but they usually have a wax coating on them, which makes them not recyclable or compostable because they're a composite material.
Okay, we got a couple more. What options for composting participation are there outside of Tarrant County? Recycling opportunities in unincorporated Johnson County continue to get smaller. So any thoughts on that?
Yes, I'm actually broadcasting from, this is the compost outpost at the Fort Worth Botanic Garden, but it is a virtual screen if you could not tell from the slight edges. I'm actually broadcasting from Johnson County right now. I am, due to COVID, I am out at my mom's in Cleburne. And so, yes, I am very aware of this problem of which you speak, and what I would recommend is look into legit vermicomposting, and then also composting in your backyard. And if you want help composting in your backyard, you don't have to be a Fort Worth resident to take the Master Composter course, excuse me. You just have to pay the fee. Or if you want to take one of the free 101 classes, they're held all over Fort Worth, and those are totally free, and those are open to anybody. We encourage Fort Worth residents, but they're legit open to anyone. And again, if you want to sign up for news about that, you just go to the bottom of pretty much any city page. You'll notice now I'm on the School Green Teams page, and it's the same sign up. And you can sign up for the Keep Fort Worth Beautiful newsletter. That's where we post all of the composting updates and send out the class schedule and stuff. You can also pay attention to the Keep Fort Worth Beautiful Facebook. And I will also say Arlington, Texas has quite a bit of active composting programs as well. So you can maybe search around on Arlington's page, but feel free, email me at mmp@fortworthtexas.gov, and I would love to chat it out with you, and we'll figure something out for you. Any other questions? No, I guess we're good on questions.
Oh, sorry, I was on mute. So the panel or the person watching from Johnson County says thank you. They missed the CRUD Cruiser. So if you actually have questions about your ability out there to use the CRUD Cruiser or the Environmental Collection Center, you can send an email to that MMP address, and we'll get that email to the right people. Kristen says, will you be sending a link to the presentation once done, or where will people be able to find this?
Excellent question. This video will be posted on the Fort Worth Library's YouTube, and then we're totally going to steal it and put it on the Fort Worth Code YouTube. And if you sign up for that newsletter, we are absolutely going to have a link to it on there as well. And we'll probably spam it a few more places that we can think of. Any other questions?
None right now.
Okay, so as we're approaching the end of our time together, I wanted to go over the food scrap page. This is the web page. If you'll notice on the right, there's all these handy dandy solid waste resources. So you can like download the Fort Worth app. That was the one that tells you about collections, recycling, sends you reminders. Here's a link to the game. Here's Cowboy Compost logo. Thank you guys. Central Texas Council of Governments, and the old TCEQ logo. We'll get that updated. Also, this is the map of all of the different collection sites for the program, including number 12, which is City Hall. But as you can see, it covers quite a wide berth, and we can add a few more. So if you would like composting in your area, get together with your neighbors and email us. Let us know. We would love to hear from you. Also, we'll show you on the Compost Outpost. If you scroll down on the right here, this more resources side, there's links to a couple of those guidebooks and informationals that I mentioned. So if you want to go ahead and get started, there's everything from lazy information to very in-depth, very technical, scientific chemistry level information on there. And we do, when we have the next Master Composter class scheduled, it will also be posted on here and on the Master Composter page, which you can get to from this link. We just don't have it on the books yet. Sorry guys, but it is coming soon. I do promise. And like I said, we will have more webinars and web-based learning materials coming up as well. Also, just if anyone was curious, this was a big project of the Blue Zones group. Again, Blue Zones Project Fort Worth. This is the urban agriculture ordinance, and it's just basically a summary of how, if you want to get started with a community garden or an urban farm or aquaponics, or you want to learn how to have some chickens in your backyard and start growing your own food and working on your own food security, we have a lot of resources for that. I would love to send anybody that. Again, that email is going to be that mmp@fortworthtexas.gov. And I'm going to type it out here to make sure everybody has it. Oh, and then yes, one last thing. If you want to volunteer at the Botanic Garden, BRIT.org is where you want to go. That's Botanical Research Institute of Texas.org. And then volunteer, become a volunteer. Everybody has to go through the BRIT program of volunteership in order to, and take their little volunteer university stuff if you want to volunteer on site at the Botanic Garden, as it is now managed by the Botanical Research Institute of Texas. So volunteer at BRIT.org. I'm pretty sure that shoots you to Montana, the gentleman I mentioned earlier, but also all these lovely people that work for the Research Institute. So on that note, throwing MP back up there. We have any more questions for the end?
No, just wanted to remind everybody that the presentation will be on the YouTube channel of the Fort Worth Public Library. Any, do we know when, Brittany, that'll be posted?
Probably sometime
within a week,
but I bet Katie can tell us.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, give us about a week. We'll go through and edit all the filming and get it all nice and pretty, and we'll send it out, and then we'll also send it to Code, and they'll post it as well.
So thank you, Katie. So I will wrap up this whole show by saying thank you everybody very much for coming. Thank you to the Fort Worth Library for hosting us on Zoom and for doing this production. It's very, very cool. And thank you, Fort Worth. I am very proud of my city. I'm very proud of the many projects that we have going on now. And please, if you want to get involved, email me. Let's talk.
All right, thank you, Brittany and Christian. I hope you all enjoyed all of the presentation. If you have any more, if you're interested in any more presentations, the library hosts about 3 to 4 Zoom webinars a week. So feel free to visit us on our Facebook page. We have all of our events listed there, and just let us know what you'd like us to see. But thank you much, Brittany and Christian and Code, and we will see you all later on.
Bye. Happy Earth Day, everybody. Thanks.
Happy Earth Day.